Thank you, Mr. President. I rise this afternoon, Mr. President, to express my considerable disappointment with the U.S.-Mexico sugar agreement that was announced just last week. This deal was concluded recently. And the fact is, this is a bad deal for the United States. I am completely mystified as to why our Commerce Department would agree to it. It's a bad deal for U.S. consumers, and we're all consumers. It's a bad deal for American workers. It completely fails to address the high price of sugar that we have in America today. In fact, it makes the problem worse. It increases the price that we all have to pay for sugar, reduces choices for consumers, and it absolutely threatens jobs in the many food-producing industries that we have across our country. What it does is it continues the protectionist policies that favor a handful of big sugar producers and refiners. These are large agribusiness companies generally, already subsidized by domestic agricultural policies that force American consumers to pay artificially inflated prices for their products. It also limits imports, and the fact is the agreement should be doing just the opposite. It should be giving us a free market in sugar so that American consumers can shop for the best deal available in the world. And that is exactly what it does not do. Unfortunately, what they did at the Commerce Department is they failed to prioritize the concerns of ordinary American consumers, ordinary American workers. You know, the fact is, Mr. President, that the U.S. is a significant net importer of sugar. We're a huge country, and we don't produce as much sugar as we consume, so we import the difference. Mexico happens to be the #1 source of imported sugar. We get about 35% of our imported sugar from Mexico. And the NAFTA trade agreement provided for free trade in sugar. It took a long time to get there, but it contemplated an arrangement where Mexico could sell American consumers, like my wife when she goes shopping at the store, and all of our families, without duties, without tariffs, without taxes, without obstacles. But that didn't work out so well for some of the sugar producers, so they went to court and they accused Mexico of dumping sugar. And in order to avoid tariffs, the Mexican government agreed to what they call these suspension agreements. It's an agreement that basically sets a minimum price. So that's what we do. That's what our sugar policy is. We have the government dictates, essentially, in conjunction with foreign governments, and it's the American government that has all the leverage here. We set prices. We fix prices. We don't have a free market. We establish by central government fiat what the price will be. We also establish import quotas. We decide how much of foreign sugar an American will be permitted to buy. Reminiscent of Moscow on the Mississippi, Mr. President, this is not how you have a free market that allows consumers to have the choices and the benefits from lower competition. Now, I was concerned about where this negotiation was heading, and so Senator Jeanne Shaheen, the Democrat senator from New Hampshire, she and I sent a letter to our Commerce Secretary Ross to urge him to consider the impact on consumers, which is all of us, I will reiterate, in negotiating this deal. There was a similar letter from House members. Unfortunately, it apparently did not persuade our Commerce Department. In fact, this new agreement, as I think I mentioned, this new agreement leaves us with a policy that's worse than what it was before. This new so-called suspension agreement increases the already inflated price of sugar, 2% higher for raw sugar, 8% higher for refined sugar if it's imported from Mexico. Now, how does it help the, I don't know, 320 million Americans? How does it help ordinary Americans to be forced to pay more for the sugar that we all have to buy? It's part of it's a staple in our food. Well, the answer is it doesn't help. It hurts the single mom who's going to the grocery store to buy cereal for her kids when she has to pay approximately twice the price of the global price for sugar. And where does that money go? It goes straight out of her pocket and straight into the pockets of this handful of wealthy sugar producers in America. So it's absolutely bad policy for American consumers. And make no mistake about it, higher price for Mexican sugar means higher price for American consumers, all of us. The Coalition for Sugar Reform estimates that the new agreement, just the new agreement, will cost U.S. consumers an additional $1 billion a year. $1 billion a year that goes straight to the growers, the producers. Now, as I said, U.S. sugar prices are already almost double the world prices generally because of the ridiculous agricultural policy we have with respect to sugar. And the American Enterprise Institute reports that they believe that the current policy already costs U.S. consumers $3 billion a year. So you have the $3 billion a year from this flawed policy we used to have, and now we just added another $1 billion a year in cost to our consumers by virtue of this suspension agreement. What the Commerce Department should be doing in these contexts is to strive to reduce and eliminate these mandatory price fixing, eliminate these barriers to trade, and put U.S. consumers as the first priority. But I will point out, it's not only Americans as consumers that are harmed by this, it's also Americans as workers. There are industries that use sugar as a component in their food products. Now, my state of Pennsylvania, in particular, has a lot of these companies, 200 confectioners. We have the most in any state. Our sugar-using industries employ nearly 40,000 workers across our Commonwealth. We have 600,000 workers across the country in the various food and beverage industries that make products that we all consume that use sugar. Well, guess what? Higher sugar prices jeopardize those well-paying food manufacturing jobs. About 120,000 such jobs have been lost over the last 2 decades because what happens is American food producers just can't compete. American food producers are forced to buy artificially expensive sugar. Their foreign competitors don't have to do that. Their foreign competitors can buy sugar on the world market at about half the price. So guess what? An American candy maker or cereal maker or other food maker is at a huge competitive disadvantage. And we've been losing them, in part because we forced them to pay these artificially high prices. Our own Commerce Department, the very same Commerce Department that negotiated this deal, they did a study. This is their work, not mine. And they estimate that when you artificially prop up the price of sugar, you might save some jobs in the sugar growing industry. But for every job you save there, you lose 3 jobs in the in the food processing, the manufacturing industry, the sugar consumption industry. What a terrible trade. What a terrible arrangement. So, Mr. President, I'm very, very disappointed to learn about this. The Commerce Department clearly failed to negotiate an agreement that would put consumers first and consumers' pocketbooks first. Instead, we've got increased prices above the already artificially high levels. We have restrictions on sugar trade. And apparently, we've decided to pursue protectionist policies that advance the interest of a small handful of wealthy growers at the expense of several hundred million American consumers. This strikes me as crony capitalism, and it's a huge mistake. Mr. President, I hope that this is not a sign of what is to come in trade negotiations. We're told that the administration is going to be reevaluating, renegotiating various agreements, including NAFTA and others, as they are being reconsidered. I hope we won't go down this protectionist road of favoring a handful of the privileged few at the expense of the many, as we apparently did in this agreement. I yield the floor.